Yeah, a lot of people thought I was like a flight attendant or a sugar baby. I was like, man, those are backups for sure. Those are backups if this whole like teaching thing doesn't work out.
The Who Do You Think You Are podcast is sponsored by Good Trip Inc. It's a super dope gallery with a super dope artist that owns it. Black owned, 416 South McDowell Street, downtown Raleigh. Y'all come through, check him out. Tell him that SP the Writer sent you.
Owner of Good Trip Tattoo and Art. My passion is creating art, and there's no better feeling than seeing a happy client.
So what's the point of glasses if...
That's what I'm asking. My vision's not that bad. It's just like medium blurry,
Medium blurry.
It's like medium blurry. Like, I probably shouldn't drive like this, but like, I'll make it home.
So how long? Wow. So how long have you worn glasses?
Since third grade. Yeah.
So you've had medium blurry vision since third grade?
Since third grade. I didn't think I would either. Like, we got, past second, I was like, I'm good. My sisters, they got glasses, but like, my vision's fine. Then I found out I couldn't read the board. And I was like, oh, you're supposed to be able to read that?
Like, yeah, so I'm gonna need something to help me out.
Yeah.
So your sister, okay. So you have more than one sister?
Yes. So I have an oldest sister. She lives in Michigan. She's like 9 years older than me. Then I've got my sister that you've met. She's 14 months older than me, and she lives here in Raleigh.
Okay.
And I've got two younger siblings from my dad's second marriage. So a little like 18, I think, and 14-year-old.
Okay.
Don't quote me.
So I'm already learning stuff already. I guess we got started, but wow. Okay, so we'll dig into that because I want to know the dynamic between all these siblings that I didn't know that you had. Welcome everybody. I'm SP. Welcome to the podcast. Who do you think you are? I'm just a silent poet. And so we're here today and we want to know, who do you think you are?
Well, hi, my name is Dominique Weatherspoon. I am a teacher. Not in a traditional sense, but I teach people how to code and I teach people how to paint. So I'm a creative as well, and I'm happy to be here.
Gotcha.
That's who I am.
And you can talk to me.
Okay.
We're gonna leave them.
All right. Cool.
I got these chairs.
See, that's the Zoom meeting within me. I'm like, I gotta.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
They say look at the camera, but that's hard.
Right. So, you just said something else I didn't know. You said that you teach people to paint.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So how long have you been painting? Because I know you paint, but I didn't know you taught painting as well.
So I've been painting pretty much most of my life, but really it's been during COVID that I've been able to focus on it because I'm kind of nomadic. I like to get up and go whenever I want to. I'm a rolling stone in some ways, or I was, but then COVID hit, and so I had to like sit my ass down.
Still down,
yeah,
right?
I had to stay in one place, and so I got to work on my art a little bit more this past year.
Got you. So where would you kind of rank yourself as a painter? Would you say like...
Oh, at the bottom. There's there's so much, yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I've seen a few of your paintings, and I definitely wouldn't say you're at the bottom.
Yeah, so, being humble, it's coming along. I'm definitely learning as I go, and I've been lucky to have friends who are artists that give me hints every now and then, tips and tricks. My sister's an artist as well, so we go back and forth, and we share with each other. Her, obviously. She's much better artist than me. No, but she is a really fantastic artist.
Got you. And I didn't know that. I've met her a couple times. I don't even remember her name actually. Sierra. Yeah. I don't even know if I actually knew that.
Every single time you're like, "This is your sister?" I was like, "Yes, SP. This is the third time."
That makes sense. Y'all met like I met probably 5,000 people in the last 3 years, and it's just a whirlwind of faces.
I'm sure.
And if you don't come to Inspired or haven't been, I probably don't remember you. So it's just kind
She'll
of
be
crazy.
there this year. We'll be there.
All right, and then I'll remember Sierra from there on.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Sierra, who's also your twin sister.
No, she's 14 months older than me.
So y'all are not twins?
No. She likes to tell people that sometimes. And then she also likes to play this game of who do you think is older? And I'm like, please stop, because I'm really feeling like Botox might be the answer. And like, I don't.
So that means you're older?
Yeah, don't put pressure on me. No, she's older.
Oh.
She's older. Yeah, she's 14 months older than me.
So how old are you?
I am
If you don't mind
24.
telling. 24,
Yeah.
okay. So I was figuring 22 to 24, somewhere around there.
I'll take that 22.
You're not supposed to say that until you're like 30, 35,
Yeah.
40, somewhere around there. All right, so y'all aren't twins. That kind of blows my mind, which kind of throws me a little bit, because I've literally, everybody that I've said something to about you or came across that knew you, I was like, yeah, she has a twin sister. And they're like, oh yeah, a twin sister. And every time I see y'all look alike.
Yeah, so they have this thing called Irish twins, which are children who are born within the same year, but some people stretch that to say the same 18 months. So technically we may or may not be like Irish twins.
Irish twins. I wonder
Is
where
what they
that
call that.
kind of derived from.
I don't know, maybe the Irish were just like popping out babies and they're like, might as well call them twins.
Okay. All right. So Sierra is 14 months older, and then you have.
My oldest sister is Gina. She lives in Michigan. That's kind of partially where we're from.
Okay.
A little bit, like
What part of
loosely.
Michigan?
Kalamazoo area.
I thought Kalamazoo was only a place in Dr. Seuss books. I never knew.
I didn't know it was featured.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He said, if I'm not mistaken, he said something about going to Kalamazoo. And I remember in elementary school thinking, oh, that's not a real place. It's Kalamazoo. Like, Dr. Seuss made it up. I didn't know that it was a real place until I was in college.
Yeah, a lot of those cities are named after, like, I don't know if Kalamazoo is, but like Native American
Gotcha.
references and stuff. So there's some names up in Michigan that I can't pronounce, for sure.
Gotcha.
Some cities.
Okay, so Gina is in Kalamazoo.
Yep.
And then you have.
I have my little sister India and my little brother TJ, and they live in DC with my dad.
DC. Gotcha. So how long have you been in Raleigh?
I've been in Raleigh since 2015. I went to NC State, and so I've just kind of been here ever since, and I really love it. I
Gotcha.
do.
And so you were saying when you came in earlier, because I didn't know what your job was either, that you actually teach code.
Yeah, so I teach people how to program.
So which program, or is it a spectrum? Because so when I went to college, I was majoring for a little while in computer information systems.
Okay.
So I had to learn COBOL and C++. which I
Never
know-
learned those.
Right, because it's old, and I'm a lot older than you. So I think Visual Basics, there was a couple of those. So which programs, or how do you teach coding? Like, what do you teach coding for, I guess?
For data analytics.
Okay.
Yeah, so I teach people how to pull in their data, analyze it, or clean it, analyze it, build reports, things like that.
Is that fun?
I enjoy it. I do. I get a chance to take material that could be boring. I mean, I've sat through classes and fallen asleep, like, and try to, add a little spice.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's what I assume you went to school for.
No.
No.
Well, not technically. Loosely related. I went to school for math. Yeah. So just straight up math.
So you're a brainiac all the way around. You're an artist, you went to school for math, and now you teach coding.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. So where does the creative side come from?
I think it's, I'd say probably from my mom, because she's very creative, but I also think it's from a necessity to have balance, because just studying math straight up or computer science straight up, I will go nuts.
Right.
Yeah. So I need a creative break to.
Got you. So how does your, because I've seen you traveling on Instagram before.
Yeah,
before COVID.
I
I'm like,
miss
okay,
it.
she's everywhere,
I
and then
miss
I'm
it.
like, what does she do? And then you're like, yeah, then you're on the computer, and then I'm like, all right, so.
Yeah, a lot of people thought I was like a flight attendant or a sugar baby. I was like, man, those are backups for sure. Those are backups if this whole teaching thing doesn't work out.
For some reason, I didn't think flight attendant. But I could not figure out exactly what it was, because I'm like,
You could just ask.
right, but you know
yeah.
what? In its own timing, because now it's perfect time.
There
for
you
me
go.
to ask.
Yeah.
So how does coding take you to all these places in the world?
So the company I work for will, have a class, and other companies will seek out our instruction. They'll buy software from my company, and then they'll request that we teach them a class of how to use said software.
Right.
And so they'll send instructors out, and man, I miss it. Per diems, paying for the hotels, the flights. Man.
Is that gonna come back, do you think?
Maybe. I'll be the first one in there and say
Right.
please send me out. I'm vaxxed and ready to go.
So when COVID hit, and for most people, COVID hit in March. Is that when they dialed y'all back?
Immediately online. Everything's on Zoom now, which was a huge flip for me. We were already teaching on Zoom because that's just more convenient for some people, and we have a global customer base. But I had never taught on Zoom before, and so for me, it was like I'm thrown into the deep end, and
Right.
I didn't really have an office space at home because they sent us home too, not just to the office. Which I'm very thankful for. I had to clear off my dining room table. I had this ugly little setup of monitors and just trying to make it work, man.
Got you.
Yeah.
So the types of people that you come across in your travels, does that allow you to get into a more creative space? How does that work with your networking? Do you keep in touch with people that you meet in other countries as well?
To an extent for sure. Like whenever I visit a new city, I really try to go somewhere that'll either teach me a new skill or, expose me to the people and let me hear their voice. So like open mics. I love going to open mics, whether that's poetry or comedy or, going to a show of some sort where I get to actually interact with some folks from the city. And I say interact loosely because I'm not that social.
You're not?
No. Fake it till you make it, baby.
So you're more introvert than extrovert?
I can't claim that either. I'm an ambivert, but
Okay.
I definitely used to be a lot more introverted, and I think that COVID really brought the extrovert out of me because I'm like, I need some fucking people in my life, man.
Right. Which is crazy
Talk to
because a lot of
people.
other people went the other way and they went more introvert once they realized I like being at home and not being around people, because I have some friends that are never coming back out again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's interesting that you put it that way.
Did you experience that? Did you feel like that flipped you at all, or?
No.
No?
So I'm more introvert
Okay.
than extrovert. A lot of people don't think that because I'm out and at every event that's going on in the area, but I'm really more, I like to be to myself.
Yeah.
I would much rather be in my house in my Diddy robe and my tiger slippers than to be at a fashion show or be anywhere. And before I started Inspired, I had never been, well, not never, but I didn't go to poetry shows. I didn't go to I went and played basketball into the movies and bowling. That was pretty much my life.
I think that says something about a person to be able to step outside of that, what makes you comfortable in order to be successful. So
True.
kudos to you for getting out there, for sure.
I mean, it's one of those things, and I'm sure you've experienced it. If you're gonna do something, then you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so if you know what it takes, then you just gotta kind of.
Yeah, you just gotta buckle down and do it.
Yeah. So you said that you always looking to learn something new.
Yes.
So give me what you've learned. I guess maybe one of the biggest things you've learned over the last year and a half during this whole COVID situation. And then take me back before COVID when you were traveling and moving and mingling in different spaces, something big that you learned that you'll probably keep with you for your life.
Man.
There we go. There we go. We stumped her.
That's a good question. Part of me wants to be like, I learned these different art techniques, and that's cool. And I certainly did learn a lot of art techniques, and it's carried me a lot of places. Not a lot of places, but I guess I learned a bit about entrepreneurialism,
Yeah, it could be a
entrepreneurialism.
word. It's Sunday.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurialism.
About, having your own small business.
Right.
So like at the end of last year, that's when I really started doing paint kits and with my
did see
business
that.
partner, and that was really awesome to like see people out there just like recreating my creations with their own twist, and
Right.
making those tutorial videos and trying to figure out how to communicate with people
Right.
virtually.
Put a pin in the other question.
All right.
So with that, do you think that now that things are opening up, you'll actually have your own events where you'll have?
I want to,
paint
yeah, no, definitely. And I kind of there was an opportunity earlier this year to do like a women's brunch and paint a picture for that. But I've been really locked down these past couple of months, like with the house buying and stuff. So.
And we're going to touch on that process
yeah,
too.
it's been insane.
That's what I've heard, and I've heard the market right now is absolutely bananas.
Crazy.
Matter of fact, we're going to talk about that now, and then we'll
All
come
right,
back to the other question.
We'll come back.
So when you were thinking about buying a house, what made you want to buy a house? Because I know there's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to buy a house. I'd rather rent. I don't want to deal with this. Don't want to deal with that.
Both of them have benefits, right?
Right.
Both of them have their own inherent flexibility, and then their own having you locked down, like having a lease that locks you down for however long the term of that lease is.
Right.
Buying a house that locks you down to that property, but on the other side, like if I do want to go on a 6-month nomadic spree, which I think about it every day, and it will be happening sometime within the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So really, I was tired of paying somebody else's mortgage. I was like, I'm wasting all this rent money.
Because you're in real estate either way, right?
Right, exactly. And I've been in Raleigh for since 2015, and I really enjoy it. And I was lucky enough to get a really good location. It definitely wasn't my first offer I put in. I put in several offers. I fell in love with one spot. It was out kind of more towards Nightgale, but still in Raleigh.
Right.
I was like, this is my spot. It's beautiful.
And there was 10,000 people trying to get it.
It felt right. No, I think I was number 2, like in the list. I was number 1 at one point, and we're doing the tour. We're walking through the house. She had one of my favorite childhood books sitting on the mantle.
Wow.
And like I really identified with her. And I never met the seller, but I was like, I can tell that she's a single woman working from home.
Right.
Everybody involved was a black woman. I was like, this feels right. There was a community pool. Didn't get it. Didn't get the house. Heartbroken.
Did you cry?
Did I cry? I don't know. I cry for everything, so probably. We'll
Got
say
you.
yes. We'll just say yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so you went through how long was that home buying process for you?
It was about 2 months before I actually secured a place.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. And so now I've seen in your stories you're doing all these renovations.
Yeah. My mama said she was like, you should get on Tinder and find yourself a handyman. I said, Mom, I am the handyman.
Right. And so, do you feel like with your home that you'll wind up, because you're going to go on this nomadic.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
So, do you think you would sell your home?
No.
Would you rent it out?
I'll rent it out. They're building
right.
an Apple campus here in like 2023. I'm about to take all their monies.
Smart.
As much as I can get.
You think you'll get into real estate heavy where you'll have multiple properties?
I hope one day I have a couple, but I try not to think in that kind of like capitalistic mindset,
Gotcha.
unless it's at the benefit of other people. Like I don't want to get put my horse in front of my wagon. No, that's the way it should be.
The
my
cart
wagon
in front of the horse.
In front of the horse. Yeah.
It's just like I had it backwards.
Whatever, but
Yeah,
I don't want to be like a real estate mogul or anything like that, unless it's like so everybody there gets free housing.
Right.
Yeah.
So progressive views.
Yeah.
That's
For
you.
sure, for
Okay.
sure.
So, and you spoke on capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
which is what this country is kind of.
Based off of, and I benefit from it, right?
Right. We all do.
Yeah. That's some of us don't, but.
What experiences have you had that kind of make you push against that, so to speak?
I think it's probably the experience of other levels of oppression that affect me personally, and thankful that my parents raised me to have some sort of empathy for other people, to see like, I don't like this. I'm sure other people don't like that.
Right.
So the only way that we can fix it is to just end all of the different levels of oppression. And, you know, capitalism feeds into most of them.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the fuel behind it.
Yeah.
Make rich white men.
Yeah, this world and country is a very interesting and sometimes dark place.
Man, yeah, it feels like a simulation of a dystopia sometimes.
I feel like it is. Yeah, the Matrix, if you will.
There you go.
Yeah.
Are you on shrooms?
Huh?
No, I'm just kidding.
You said am I who?
I said, are you on shrooms?
No.
Talking about the Matrix.
No. I'm not. I've never done shrooms. I've smoked weed four times my entire life, I think. I'm very much a control freak.
Yeah.
And so I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke, and I've never done anything because I like to be in control of not only my surroundings
Absolutely.
but my body.
Absolutely.
And then the couple of times I did try, it's a wonderful feeling. But what I realized is that I don't have much control. Like I've seen my friends, and I think I was talking about it not too long ago. I've seen friends go smoke, you know, a whole blunt and then go play basketball and dunk on you. But I couldn't do that. The ball hit me in the face.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Let me kind of chill out on that.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the other question. So pre-COVID,
Yes.
something that in your travels that you learned, whether it be a skill or whether it be something just mentally or internally that you feel like is gonna kind of carry with you throughout your life.
Got you. Like you can travel all you want, and I think that I did so partially, you know, for my work, and then a lot of the times for fun too, and just to get up and move. But I felt like, if we're gonna be real, I was running from something. So, you know, internal, and that's something that you're gonna take with you no matter where you go. And so, another thing that COVID taught me was how to deal with that at home. And so, you know, I've got a therapist.
Okay.
Been working with her for a couple of years, and she teaches me a lot about better ways to navigate relationships, to deal with, you know, the reason why I am the way that I am, and like experiences and things like that. And so, yeah.
So was it hard for you to make the decision to see a therapist?
Kinda. I knew it needed to happen. Another thing that a lot of people don't know about me is I got married when I was 18.
Got you.
And a lot of people don't know that because it was on the low, like
Wow.
on the low. Like my best friends knew, my mom knew because I had to get off her insurance plan.
Like that's
Yeah.
the reason Mom knew. I had to get off the
Mom
insurance.
knew, his parents didn't know. We did end up having a wedding in like 2017, so a couple years after we got married, and there was a lot of parts of that weren't good for me.
Right.
And so making that decision to get out of it was difficult because I grew up with divorced parents.
Okay.
And so, you know, I carry that stigma of like, you know, I think it affects people that, you know, I don't want to get divorced because my parents were divorced. I want to really stick it out. But then like that mindset to me was toxic because it made me deal with a lot of shit that I shouldn't have dealt with.
Right.
And I don't say that loosely. Like had it been something like infidelity, I could have worked that out, honestly. Like Jada and Will. It out for lifers.
Right.
But no, so, you know, knowing that I had to leave that and all the baggage that came with that, I was like, I got to talk with somebody. And I didn't really know what that was going to be like to like just go in and talk to somebody like, how are you going to help me? But now I'll, you know, be going throughout my week and I'll be like, man, why is it that when somebody puts up a boundary for me, I want to put up a boundary for them? I'm like, is that honest to me? Is that kind? You know? Is that valid?
Right.
And I'll say like, you know what, that's what I want to talk about in therapy this week. So it's like my own little class. I get to go in there and be like, this is the subject.
Right.
You know,
And
help me work through this.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead of the teacher telling you what the subject is, you get to choose what the subject is.
Yeah.
Now you got me wondering if I need to be in therapy because my parents got
Everybody should.
My parents got divorced when I was in middle school.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least that's when I was told. I don't really know when they got divorced. But I remember in middle school, my mom told me before school one morning, and started crying. Of course, you know, I'm in like 7th or 8th grade. Something I think it was the 8th grade. So I'm crying my eyes out, and she's like, well, do you want to stay home today? And I was just like, nah, like I want to go to school. So I went to school and cried all day. And I'm not a crier at all, unlike yourself.
I mean, if we're gonna say, I think this side's better. We get it out.
But yeah, so that was pretty traumatic for me. And my mom and dad were both in the military.
Okay, yeah.
So
mine too.
my mom got out. What branch?
Army, both of them.
Okay, so both of mine were Air Force.
Okay.
But my mom got out when I was super young, and so we were stationary. And then my dad was still in, but my dad was like still in my life.
Yeah.
And so then when they told me they were getting divorced, I'm like, what the heck is going on? We're kids.
Yeah.
And so now I'm wondering if I need therapy.
I mean, I think it's helpful for everyone. Whenever I say I'm in therapy, I feel like people who aren't hip to it or really have no other reference, like they don't know other people who have been through therapy or know the benefits of it, they'll think that I have something wild going on in my head. And I'm not saying I don't, but at least that's not what we talk about.
Right.
She's a psychologist, not a psychiatrist.
Right.
Actually, I don't even think she's that. I think she's a licensed social worker, counselor. I don't know.
And see, I just found out a few months ago that a psychiatrist is a therapist that can prescribe you medication.
Bingo, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't need that, per
Right.
se.
So I've started learning more about, I have a lot of friends that are therapists and also psychiatrists as well. So I've and then talking with certain friends that have, had things that they went through that they need to kind of sort out. So I'm kind of understanding a little more about that world. But I've never thought about going to therapy for myself, ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think now that I do it on a regular basis, pretty much bi-weekly, although last week I talked with her and I was like, you know what, let's just go back to back these next 2 weeks. I think it's something that everyone should do, but I also know that it's not accessible to everyone because if you don't have health care, therapy sessions are like $100, $150 a session.
Right.
But for me, I got copay, and so it's like $35.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of cheeseburgers, right?
Right. I'm like, it's worth it. I wasted $35 in worse ways.
Do you think that? So I'm 38. I just turned 38, and you're 24. So we got a 14-year gap. I know growing up, when I was 24 years old, post college, the word therapy never came up amongst my friends or the people that I was around. And so now I'm looking at the world the way it is, and therapy is, or therapist or therapy sessions is a phrase or a word that comes up a lot. Do you feel like that could possibly be like a generational thing where we're moving into? Yeah, I think that there's been a shift because, like, for example, I think I told my dad that I felt like I was seasonally depressed, and he was like, you ain't seasonally depressed. Right.
I was like,
how
you know? You know?
Right.
I think there's a shift in the thought of like, do we have things that are going inside our heads that can make us sad? Like everything's not external.
Right.
And so, finding an understanding for that. Me personally, I have a lot of friends who have gone to therapy, and I think that that's because I'm friends with a lot of like feminists and womenists, and that's kind of like my circle. When I went to college, so I studied math as my major, but women's and gender studies was my minor, along with psychology, because I needed balance, right? You can't just study math all the time.
Right.
That's just not a thing. But through that, I met a lot of women who were, and people in general who were just like, yeah, we got to smash the patriarchy, yada, yada, yada. And some of it stems from experiencing trauma, that is sexist trauma or racist trauma, and wanting to make a change for that. And so, and then, you add on that layer of like people going through college and the resources that are there. And so you could take therapy in college, and I think it was free. So yeah.
Gotcha.
For me, it comes up in my spaces.
Gotcha. Man, it's so interesting how, all of us grow up differently and in these different segments, because when I was your age, you would have hated me. And now, I've matured and I've been able to, because I grew up in a very, very small town, so I wasn't privy to or didn't experience.
Small town? Not like a military base or anything?
No, because remember my mom got out.
Yeah.
My mom got out of the military when I was like 4 and a half, 5. And so then we moved back to where my parents met. And
Okay.
my dad was still.
He was still like traveling around.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But so I was so we were near Camp Lejeune, but
Okay.
of course my parents were Army or Marines. They were in the Navy.
I thought they were Air
Air
Force.
Force. Getting old.
That's okay. It took me a minute to get the difference between military and Army. I thought they were the same.
So yeah, we were in Maysville, North Carolina.
Okay.
One stop.
Never heard
off,
of it, so yeah.
right next to Jacksonville.
Okay.
Yeah, so like Camp Lejeune was one of the schools that we played in sports. But I wasn't exposed to a lot. And so when I finally came to Raleigh, I went to Campbell University for a little while, transferred from there, went to Lewisburg for a half a second, and then moved to Raleigh in 2005. And so that's when I started getting around more people. I still wasn't exposed to a whole lot, but the whole like understanding, you know, not to be a chauvinistic type person toward women, you know, I wasn't even privy to the trans experience at all at that point in time, which over the past couple of years I've learned a lot about that experience and been able to understand my ignorance is there. But a lot of the things that you have already like kind of grown up in, like I'm just now learning over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I grew up mostly on military bases, and we finally settled in Fayetteville when I was like in 5th grade.
Okay.
And Fayetteville's pretty diverse, I would
Yeah.
say. It's not terribly small.
Right.
And yeah, if you don't have diverse encounters, and you know, even if you have diverse encounters, you have to make that extra step to defeat the default. And the default is racist, sexist, you know, transphobic, like homophobic.
Right.
The default is accepting those layers of oppression, because that's what keeps our society going. That's what society teaches you.
Right.
Like, you have to make an effort to like step outside of that and to learn something else.
So where's your, and it's always interesting for me because I've had some conversations with people who are in those oppressive states, and I remember having one particular conversation with a friend, and she's just like, anybody that said anything transphobic or anything, like, she would kind of, you know, she would attack them. And I wasn't getting that experience with her because I knew her. And so it would be a situation where I'd be like, yo, like, why is there this disconnect? Because I could say something that is just as bad as what they said out of ignorance, but then you would teach me. Versus if they say something, it's an attack or you're less understanding.
I mean, it takes work, right? It takes work to sit down and like try to help somebody understand something different, because, you know, if I sit here and try to talk to you about consent, then I'm also pulling from my own traumas versus, you know, if I don't give a fuck about you, I Google it.
Right.
Like, there's plenty of, you know, theorists and people who have written pages and books, and they got YouTube videos on it. Like,
Right.
you know, if I don't care about you, and that's something that, you know, I had to learn myself, because I would get on arguments on like Facebook and whatever, and it's a rarity nowadays, but every now and then.
Right.
Yeah, if I don't, I realize it's like, if I don't care about you, and we all have to do the work, especially in those situations that you're not, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but if I encounter a friend who's saying something transphobic, yeah, I would rather sit down and talk with them about it, because I don't want you to go and ask somebody who is trans, and then you're like, you know, you fuck up their day because you said something messed up.
Right.
But yeah, it has to come from a place of love. Also, if it doesn't, you're not going to learn anything, so.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been real interesting for me, because that's completely opposite of how I grew. Actually, growing up, I never even heard the word trans. Post-college, maybe. So I was well into, you know, my life at that point, over halfway through my life, before I even heard the word trans. Now, homophobia I knew about because I was very homophobic. And so even now, like, I have to understand that, like, I still do have homophobic tendencies, but I can.
It's the default, right?
Yeah.
It's the default, and I've got internalized sexisms and I've got internalized racism,
Right.
like, and that doesn't mean that I have to like let that take over,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
As long as I can take a second and analyze myself and be like, damn, did I say something fucked up?
Right,
Or
right.
like, was I thinking something fucked up?
Right.
Yeah.
So is that a constant thing for you, or are you kind of more over on?
I think it's a default at this point. Yeah, I think that it takes some time to train your brain to like combat those automatic responses.
Right.
But once you do it, I think it's a habit to say pause.
So you said something where you were like, yo, like, if I don't give a fuck about you, like, Google it.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because we have a wealth of information out here. But what about the person that's not even conscious enough to even know that that's an issue because they're not in a space or a bubble or have people around them for that to even come up to begin with? And then they say something, like how does that kind of flow, just in your experience with you? Like, where do you feel, if any, do you feel like you have because I know you say you're very empathetic. And so that word kind of stuck with me because I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. And Gary Vee.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, you got to get on Gary Vee. I don't know. You may like Gary Vee. Gary Vee's real straight to the punch. He's from Jersey, short white guy. Super. He is very capitalistic, but
Is this like a Joe Rogan kind of thing?
No.
Okay.
I think I feel like he looks like the Joe Rogan kind of person on the outside, but if you really dig into him, he's completely opposite to Joe Rogan. I'm interested. I'm gonna have to see some Gary Vee stuff so I can get your take on Gary Vee. But he talks about empathy a lot, and so I'm wondering how that kind of ties into those moments where you're like, I don't fucking know you anyway.
Yeah.
And is that something that you would want to, and I don't want to use the word progress in because it's not necessarily the correct term, but for lack of a better term, is that something that you would want to change to be more empathetic in those situations, or are you like, nah?
Now this is where I grew to be, right?
Okay.
Because I think previously you want to take the time and maybe my tone wouldn't always be right, but at the end of the day, no matter what I said, you heard what the fuck I said, right? Like, and everybody wants to, talk about, the tone wasn't right. Like, no, but the message was.
Right.
And so I think I got to the point where that stuff stresses me out, man. Like, and so I gotta think about myself too, because, I don't.
Right, because you got to carry it.
Right, I gotta carry the burden of educating you, and at the same time, I don't got that much time. Like
We have a lot of time. We have way more time than we think we do.
That's true. You make time for what's important to you.
True.
So
what's the most important thing to you right now that you make time for?
People are always, I hope. I can't speak for older me, but
Older me.
people are the most important.
Can't speak for 38-year-old.
Yeah. I can't speak for her just yet. She might look back and be like, money.
Right.
But no, people right now.
People.
Yeah.
So what about people really resonates with you?
I think
Because it's funny you said that. Because before we started, I was like, we're going to talk about what makes humans humans.
Yeah, I think it's, nurturing our connections and, spending more time with my friends. My sister, she was previously out in Texas, and so now she lives in Raleigh. And so, we grew up fighting a lot, like head to head. But like now,
Is that a fist fight?
there was a couple of close calls there.
Okay.
We didn't typically. There might be like a shove here and there,
Right.
but most of the time it was like mental games.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
But now we're like best friends, and so
Right.
spending time with people, and I think part of that's like also COVID related, like really bringing out to me like what's important, because you got people dying out here, and so don't want to waste it.
So where do you sit with COVID overall? Like, are you vaccinated? You gotten vaccinated?
I am vaccinated. I was like, you could put an iPod Nano in my veins if it means I can travel again. I don't care. I need to get out of this house.
Not the iPod Nano in your veins. Gotcha.
I'm saying, yeah.
Are you a conspiracy theorist at all?
There's a lot of valid ones out there.
There are.
Now, do I believe that the Earth is flat? No. So
no Kyrie
I think
Irving.
maybe like the Kyrie Irving. What? Oh yeah, he said that the Earth was
Yeah,
flat.
he
Gotcha.
did.
Gotcha.
You watch basketball?
Nah.
No, okay,
Nah.
So you think there's some
There's definitely some valid ones, like Marilyn Monroe. She was killed by the FBI, so CIA, Dr. Martin Luther King. But I feel like that's not
Right,
a
yeah.
conspiracy at
We
this point.
pretty
Like
much know that. JFK, all
it's
that,
proven.
yeah.
It's not in our history books because we don't write
Right.
stuff that makes us look bad. But
Right.
yeah.
Got you. So you are, and now because we kind of been talking about sex and race and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So your ethnicity is
I'm black and white.
black and white.
Yeah, so my dad's black, my mom's white.
Got you. So I'm always curious with those who are of mixed ethnicity, or even like I have friends, like I have a cousin who is black who is married to a white woman. I have a lot of friends who are mixed marriages as well. So how does that play with family when it comes to racial issues?
Yeah, my white side is not really it's not really hitting the mark these days, and it's a shame because you grow up thinking that the people around you love every part of you, or unconditionally or whatnot, and then I'm pissed at my grandma these days. Wow. On my mom's side, and is not a lot of love left there because I see the things that people will put on Facebook, and it's clear that they're from small town Michigan, and so part of it is that they don't have that. They didn't grow up with that diversity to really expose them to other people's points of views, and then you give people like that the internet, and they'll say whatever the fuck they want. Right. So it's a little bit tough on my white side, and that's also the side that I grew up closer with. There's a select few people, like my mom's always willing to learn, and bless her heart, because I put her through a curriculum last year, with everything going on with George Floyd, and I knew it made her uncomfortable at some points, but I'm like, your discomfort is never going to compare to like a black man getting stopped by the cops. So, we're gonna talk about this. Excuse me. So my white side, when it comes to like race issues and stuff, not really doing too great. There's some family members that I do feel like I can show up as my full self with, but I don't. They're in Michigan, so it doesn't really affect me. My black side, we're not as close because I was raised by my mom. So after my parents divorced when I was like 2, I mostly grew up with my mom's side.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. That was not, and I guess I didn't really know what you were gonna say, but that definitely was a little different than I guess when I've asked other people.
Yeah.
And maybe they weren't being real with me. I don't know. And so that's real interesting because I've tried to kind of, as a poet, put myself in as much as I can in my mind in other people's shoes to try to understand what they may or may not be going through, and not just that type of instance, but in all types of different instances. And I'll write from these perspectives and things of that nature. And so I'm always just kind of wondering what makes people tick and be the way that they are, because I've learned a lot about myself, especially over the past maybe 10 years. And so I'm like, man, like now hearing you say what you said, like I'm thinking like as your white side family, like how could they not love their family or a family member?
And it's not just
in full.
Yeah, so when I say that, it's not like not recently, at least. None of them have said anything towards me or my siblings, because we're the only ones that are mixed race. So me, Sierra, and then my oldest sister, Gina, we're all half white, half black. So it's been a minute. There was this one time when we were younger, and one of my cousins, I was too young to know, but we were at like some sort of family function on my white side, and I think he called my older sister the N-word, and Gina will stomp a man. She will curb stomp a man. But she was probably, she's big bone. And so I try to stay on her good side. But we live at a distance now, so I talk my shit.
I don't have to fight
I talk
her.
my shit from here.
Right. And then I fly to Italy.
Right. But yeah, so I think he called her the N-word, or called one of us the N-word. And she beat that boy bloody. Like, surprised that he didn't have to go to the hospital. So he never said that word again. At least not
to her.
around us.
Right.
Right. So usually it's not that but it's like something that my grandma posted that really pissed me off. It was they're talking about like the protests that came, after George Floyd and the rioting and whatnot. And I say it like that because I'm like, white people really get pissed when the rioting's for like race issues, but not when it's because they won an MLB game or whatever,
Right.
Anyways, she had reposted something that was like, oh, if that happens in my town, take the sewage hose or something and spray down the protesters. I was like, you don't, is that imagery not connecting to you from like Jim Crow, like the 50s and, how they would come out with hoses and like fire hoses? Like, bro, that's racist. And then she blocked me after that on Facebook.
So there was no extra conversation.
No, there was no additional conversation.
Got you. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine throughout the nation, throughout the world, a lot of instances that are like that where family members don't necessarily see eye to eye on social, racial, gender, different types of issues like that. Like I have a lot of friends that probably could not bring around trans friends or gay friends because they would not act appropriately, at least, in order for me to not have this group of friends feel a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
So I've learned that, and I've started kind of integrating, but then I've also understood that on this side of things, the side that I came from, so to speak, there are a lot of people who have went through their own traumas and things of that nature that kind of play into why they feel and act the way they do. And because I understand those, because I grew up in that, I'm able to kind of be like, hey, well, da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm starting to kind of see emerge a little bit, which makes me happy because then at a certain point, then everybody can just look at everybody as a fucking human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can be good to go. But like I said, that took a lot just for me. And so I'm always wondering how to, in all situations, it could be something business, somebody who's not business minded and saying, okay, you have this potential and you want to do these things. Well, let me kind of integrate you into business minded people, but then that being a whole process. I'm always trying to figure out the process to put people together in certain situations where it's not foreign anymore. So yeah, that's.
So you get a lot into like mentorship. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
But not formal. I'm not getting paid for it or anything.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm definitely moving into that role, and maybe it's my older age, my 38-year-old me. But yeah, I'm definitely moving into that, and so I get to learn a lot, I get to see a lot, I get to experience a lot more than what I ever thought I would growing up, because all I knew growing up was basketball and video games and girls, and that was pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like we have a duty to step back, and because some of these young kids are just dumb, And so
well, some of the older ones are too.
Some of the older ones are too. Like a mentor can look like anything. They could be old, young, male, female, non-binary. Like you never know who's gonna show up.
You said the word binary. I just learned that word like a year ago. And I'm just like, what else do I not know out here? You know what I'm saying? Like I really felt not dumb, because think you know what you know.
No, I mean, I feel you. Like there's spaces that I don't feel quite literate in, like going to the gym. I don't know how any of the machines
So you don't work out?
No, I do.
Okay.
I do. Like I try to. I'm just getting off of a sprained ankle, but I went to the gym twice last week.
Got you.
Guns coming.
Not the
summer
guns
body
coming.
loading.
Not the guns coming.
Just kidding. The beach gonna get whatever body I give it. So.
Well, I don't think the beach is gonna be mad, so you be good on that. Cool. So that's, man, like you got my mind racing, and it's always racing.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Then I'm always thinking about the poetry and things. And so it's very interesting to hear you speak. I mean, first of all, you're a woman, I'm a man, so there's a difference there. But then just some of the things, like I've never traveled out of the country before, ever. Never had the urge. Like I think I said back in like 2007, I was like, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna get my passport. And I do not have a passport.
Gotta do it.
That's what everybody keeps telling me.
You gotta do it.
And then I go to Australia and I get stung by a jellyfish and I die.
Unlikely.
Right.
Highly unlikely, because we could step out here and get hit by a bus. God forbid,
Right.
please don't let it happen.
Right,
I'm not done here yet.
Right. Inspired is in November.
Yeah, I'm not one to tell anybody, like, oh, you should do this, or you got to do that, because nobody likes unsolicited advice. But everybody's got to step outside this world. Everybody got to step outside this country, and see the way that other people are living. And
Where should I go? Where should I go first?
Where should you go first?
Knowing the little you know about me.
Netherlands.
The Netherlands. Why the Netherlands?
The Netherlands. It's a lot like, in terms of diversity, it's a lot like the U.S., mostly because the Netherlands got, like, when colonization was a thing, they were like first in line. Yeah, they were like building the blueprints for the slave ships.
Wow.
So the diversity there is a lot like the U.S., but with more languages. And so the reason why I say that is because when you step outside and you want to see the human in people.
Right.
When you step outside and you see, oh, this is different, or they eat different food, or they speak different languages. You spend like a day or two there and you're like, oh wait, this is kind of normal. Like their crosswalks kind of look the same as ours. Like I understand, how a map works. And you start to see the human in people around you.
Right.
Even though you don't know them, even though you grew up in different places. And so if we're dipping our toes into the travel waters, I'm saying the Netherlands.
The Netherlands.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a first. So I'm gonna have to do some research on the Netherlands and
Yeah.
maybe get my passport.
And they got a lot of history there too. Like in Amsterdam, they've got the Anne Frank House, and
Right.
so you can step into museums, walking us through like these major points in history and like what people experienced. So
Right. I know my brother went to Amsterdam a couple of years ago. Don't think he went to the Anne Frank House.
there's other things to do there for sure.
Right. I know he drank a lot, but outside of that, I'm not sure what other things he really explored. But that would be interesting.
I think they might have Van Gogh up there as well in Amsterdam. So like,
how do you feel about artists that, like, so for me, when I start collecting art, I only want art from people who are alive,
oh, okay.
right?
I
So
dig that.
how do you kind of look at artists in that way, like as far as the greats, Picasso and Van Gogh and all these people versus artists who are alive nowadays? Like, do you value one over the other? Do you like the more classical stuff over the newer age?
Yeah, I never really thought about it that much because, I do art, but I don't really see myself ever doing it full time, and I don't see myself like being one of the greats.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I'm
Right.
okay with that. I think that the greats are great for, good reason most of the time, but some of that is a lot of marketing. And so the business side of me is like, what did they do to get to that point? So they're more interesting for me to study in
Okay.
some ways, just because you've got their whole history there, whereas you've got artists that are alive that are like killing it and they're going to go far, but that story isn't complete yet, so you
Right.
can't really sit back and examine that. So if I'm researching one or the other, I'll probably go with the old heads. But if I'm like, I don't know, there's definitely value to be able to like speak to an artist or
Right. Right. I'm gonna have to, because I've never studied. Now that you said, I've never studied the older artists as far as the marketing goes. Now I've studied some poets, and like I know, Edgar Allan Poe, he was broke his entire life. He didn't, amass a wealth until he was, dead. Emily Dickinson, had a terrible fucking life. Everybody around her just died all the time.
Yeah.
And so I've looked at poets, but I've never looked at artists from that era. So
Yeah, you probably find a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Everybody's just looking for an outlet and
right.
express.
But see, I'm wondering how, especially with the older artists, because they didn't have access to all the technology and stuff that we have nowadays to get things out there. Like, when was that break? Like, how did it just all of a sudden somebody said, oh, this Van Gogh piece is worth, $8 million.
Often after they died, right? Which
Right.
is a shame, but I think Basquiat, he's interesting to study. I don't know everything about him, so don't ask me no questions. But he's interesting to study.
Right. I've
Because he did hit, a good amount of fame when he was alive still. Yeah.
Which is rare.
Yeah. And then you can see how that affects the artist.
Right.
You know.
So if you could be famous for something, what would you be famous for? She's like, that's you, that I can say on camera?
Oh, goodness. You know, I think I'd like to try my hand at acting.
Okay.
I would. I feel like I have a lot of personalities within me. And so it would be cool to try to like actually control that and direct it into a space where I can, you know, maybe tell a story and participate in art in that kind of a way. So I could see myself doing some acting.
Okay.
But we'll see if it ever happens. That's just like
I mean, you know,
if I could.
I do have a show.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, maybe something could possibly happen.
Hit me it.
You know, let you dip your toes in the water.
Toes in the waters of acting.
And see what's going on.
Yeah. There was a time. Was it before COVID? It was definitely before COVID. I think it was right before COVID. Yeah, because I remember we were rehearsing. We were filming on the day that Kobe passed. And everybody was like in disbelief. They were like, nah, no.
Kobe, man.
No. And
Kobe on the wall over there.
R.I.P. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was participating, and we were doing a short film, but it kind of like fell apart. Some disagreements with people on the crew, or whatever. Which I was just like, I just wanna play my part.
Right. Kobe. Where was this filming taking place?
It was here in Raleigh.
Here in Raleigh.
Yeah. Lee.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Golden Moments.
That's my guy. Yeah.
It was one of his short films.
Lee's a genius. Mm-hmm. I think so. Anyway.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. So y'all found out Kobe died on set.
On set. Yeah.
How was that for you? Because you don't really watch basketball. You said.
You know, and I hate to say it, but like my reference for Kobe wasn't that great, because you know I'm thinking about like the cases and stuff and whatnot, and but over the time I kind of like learned to accept like that he meant a lot to other people,
right?
And to the game of basketball,
right.
And to his family. Like, oh my God, what Vanessa went through,
yeah,
I couldn't imagine.
Still going through.
Yeah, still. I mean, obviously.
She's trying to get people to leave her the hell alone too.
Yeah, and she's raising 3 girls by herself. Oof, the strength. Lord, don't ever put me through that.
Right. Do you want kids?
I think so. I don't ever want to put myself in that box of like, oh, I need to have kids, I need to get married, because I feel like that's going to put pressure on myself to settle for it. Like, okay, like, you know, we're 33 now. Like, let's get this ball rolling. You'll do. Yeah, you'll be fine. So, like, come on, let's have kids. And then you find out you don't really like that person, and it doesn't last forever. I know that I could be happy without them.
Right.
Yeah. So, and also, you never know. Like, unless you've done fertility tests, you don't really know if you'll be able to. Right? That's what I think.
And that's such a crazy thing for me as a guy, because growing up, guys don't think about whether or not you can have a baby. We're always trying not to have a baby. We never think, oh, you know, maybe you're okay.
Same. Like, I definitely feel it as like a badge of honor that I haven't had an impromptu kid yet, because when that does happen, if when that does happen, I want to be prepared. You know, like I want to have the money saved up so that that's not a stressor. I want to have everything lined up. You know, a bigger house than the one that I have now, and but at the same time, I'm like, I haven't really had that many pregnancy scares. Like, is everything okay?
Right.
I'm sure it is. It is. But so I think that I could be fulfilled by participating in the raising of the next generation in other ways, even if it's not through my own children, it's through other people's children, adoption, or, you know, working at a school. Adopt? I think so. Yeah. They need parents too, you know.
And maybe my bias is, I'm like, I would be afraid to adopt.
I mean, parenting is going to be scary anyways.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people, they're like, oh, you know, you got this kid that's like, comes with its problems. Your kid's going to come with problems too.
Yeah, I say all these fucked up people that are adults were once kids.
Yeah, but you know, you have to be in the right mindset for it, because I've had friends, you know, that were adopted and their adoptive parents were trash, like just a lot of trauma, and so I don't want to sound cocky, but I feel like I could do okay.
You're a pretty good mom.
Yeah, I feel like I could probably, you know, heal some folk.
So I saw earlier you have a tattoo there.
Feminist, yeah. I got that when I was 18, freshman year of college.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was either this or something silly that I won't say on canvas.
Okay.
Or not on camera, but yeah.
So that worked out for you.
Yeah.
Because that's something that is ingrained in you anyway.
Yeah. And I was like, it's cute. It's like its own little like
You have any
bracelet.
other tattoos?
Yeah, I've got a couple of small ones like that. I like tattoos. I've started this habit of tattoos as souvenirs.
Okay.
And so like I have Pura Vida on my rib cage, which was my most painful tattoo, even though I have a much larger one on my hip. But I've got Pura Vida, which is like a saying out in Costa Rica, but I got it while I was in Guatemala.
Okay.
And then I have
Hold on, don't run past that. What's the saying mean?
Oh, Pura Vida, that's like pure life. It's like Pura Vida, you know,
Gotcha.
it's just like something that
Okay.
they say. I don't know, like YOLO, maybe?
Okay.
That's the equivalent. We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Right.
And then I have Veni Vidi Vici, which is Italian, but I got that in Spain. And so like it's kind of a commemorative piece for two different trips. So I have a few small ones and then one larger one. I haven't committed to what my next larger piece on my body will be, but
I'm assuming it's gonna be on your arm.
I
you
think
did
so.
like this,
Yeah,
you was like-
I think so.
You gonna get a
Just
sleeve
kind of,
maybe?
You know, like,
Or
I
half
can see
sleeve,
it,
quarter?
like,
Gotcha.
yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Well, now you got somewhere where you can come to get.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
this podcast is sponsored by Good Trip. Yeah, he's pretty amazing. So.
Yeah, fantastic artist.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so in the beginning, we started and I asked you, who do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to ask you, who do you think you will be? Who will older you be?
Oh, I can't wait to meet her. I think about this often, partially because I've got, you know, some friends that I've met off the internet, but I consider them friends who
Right.
are like, you know, older women, maybe like in their 30s, and they just seem so much more confident and self-assured. And I feel self-assured already, and so I'm like, I can't wait to meet 30-year-old me. She's gonna be such a badass, you know, and she's gonna speak up for what's right, and she's gonna, you know, be even more financially secure. She's gonna be able to do whatever she wants. She's gonna have so many more experiences under her belt, and yeah, any talents I have now, they're gonna be like.
Right.
Fostered. So yeah, I think that I will be what I am now, but more emotionally intelligent.
Okay.
And yeah, just better.
Cool. Good way to end it. That is the end of this podcast. We'll see y'all next time. Be a good human, and we're out.